Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're jumping straight into a really tough topic.
A very tough one.
Infidelity. It's something that usually gets talked about in these, very extreme ways. Total condemnation on one side or just simplistic excuses on the other.
Exactly.
And we are going to try and move right past that.
Yeah.
The sources we're looking at today are very focused. They outline 12 specific, deep psychological and biological reasons that men cite for cheating.
Right.
Okay, let's unpack this. This isn't about judgment. It's not about blame. It's about understanding the mechanics behind these decisions.
Yeah, the architecture.
The architecture, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Is it biology, personality,
Mm-hmm.
or is it just a reaction to the relationship itself?
And our goal here is to really synthesize these 12 motives into a clear psychological map for you. We want to separate out the intrinsic factors, the core personality issues, from the things that are more reactive or just circumstantial. And the material has some genuinely surprising stats that I think will give you some of those aha moments about why these patterns happen over and over again.
Please like, subscribe, and leave a comment. You are doing important work.
So where do we start?
Mm.
I think the most counterintuitive place is this biological trigger. The sources call it the 3-year fade.
Yeah.
So researchers asked a huge group of men, how long does it take for that initial, that spark, for it to fundamentally change to the point where they start looking at their partner differently?
And the number was just incredible.
9 out of 10 men. 9 out of 10 said 3 years. And then I start questioning why I even got married in the first place. That's just the staggering finding.
It is, and the research connects this directly to some deep evolutionary wiring. Our instincts, well, they're not really designed for a 50-year monogamous marriage.
They're designed for something else.
They're designed to prioritize reproduction and the survival of a child. That's it.
So the intense infatuation phase,
Hmm.
it has a biological job to do.
Exactly. The biological argument is that this hormonal high just needs to last long enough for conception to happen and for the child to get past that really vulnerable infant stage.
And how long is that?
It's cited as lasting somewhere between 3 to 5 years. By that point, the child is maybe 18 months, 2 years old. The mother can start to detach a little bit. And the father's instinctual job, biologically speaking, is done.
So if the relationship is just coasting on that biological momentum, it's basically running on empty around year 4 or 5.
That's a perfect way to put it. It takes a conscious choice to keep it going past that point. Beyond that instinctual phase, keeping love alive depends completely on a man's values, on shared history, on conscious effort. The men who stay committed for life, they're the ones who make that transition. They stay because they decided to, overriding that fading biological signal.
That distinction is huge. Instinct versus conscious choice. But what about the guys who don't seem to have that override? The ones we think of as, just natural cheaters.
Right, the intrinsic ones. This brings us to what the research calls psychological issues.
Okay.
These are the men with certain personality traits or maybe even mild disorders that push them toward needing constant validation or thrill-seeking. For them, infidelity is just a way to get an immediate emotional fix.
Primitive self-fulfillment.
Exactly. But here's the fascinating part. You'd think this group would be the majority, right?
What? Yeah.
The data suggests they make up only about 15% of all cases.
Wait, only 15%?
15, which, if that's true, it means the vast majority of infidelity isn't innate. It's reactive or circumstantial.
Wow. Okay, if only 15% are the true cheaters, that means we have to talk about the 85%. And that leads us to this idea of deep programming from childhood. The shadow of the father, repeating parental patterns.
And the statistic here is just as sobering.
It's unbelievable. Even if a man saw his father cheat, hated it, felt the pain it caused his mother, and swore he would never, ever do it.
There's still an 85% chance he'll do the exact same thing.
85%?
Yeah.
How do the sources even explain that? How does a conscious promise fail so completely against unconscious programming?
It's all about internalized relationship models. We basically download a blueprint for relationships from our parents.
But not always the good parts of the blueprint.
No, we download the whole structure. So even while he's consciously fighting against his father's actions, the pattern for how you handle conflict, where loyalty breaks down, how you avoid emotional problems, it's all deeply programmed.
So it's childhood damage driving adult behavior.
Right. It's less about his current partner and more about reenacting a painful past.
Okay, so from that deep, decades-long programming, let's shift to the immediate. The day-to-day conflicts. This brings us to the wounded ego.
Cheating as a protest.
Exactly. It's a response to losing status or power in the relationship, usually after long, unresolved fights. The sources describe this dynamic where, a woman might constantly test him, push his boundaries.
Hoping he'll push back, show some strength.
Right. But when he feels like he's failing that test, instead of stepping up and solving the problem, infidelity becomes this escape hatch.
It's the ultimate avoidance mechanism. He doesn't feel respected at home, so he goes somewhere else to feel competent and desired.
It's basically running away from the problem instead of fixing it.
It is. And if you connect that need for external validation to a deeper insecurity, you get the next motive, the desire for self-assertion and power.
Okay, how is this different?
This is the man who has multiple repeated affairs. A third, a fifth, a 10th. It's a pattern.
A cycle.
It's a cycle, and the goal is just validation. Every new affair is a temporary fix that proves, see, I'm still desirable. I'm still successful.
So it's not the same as that 15% intrinsic cheater.
No, because this is driven by a deficit, by low self-esteem. The research suggests that once that man achieves stable, healthy self-worth, that compulsive need to cheat it disappears. It was never about sex. It was about filling an emotional hole.
Wow. Using infidelity as a yardstick for your own success, that's powerful. Okay, let's shift to something a bit simpler, but just as critical. Neglected needs. One of the biggest reasons cited, even by otherwise stable men, is just sexual dissatisfaction.
Right.
When men feel they're getting way less intimacy than they need or the quality isn't there, it becomes a major breaking point.
And paired right alongside that is the motive of escaping boredom.
The relationship just runs out of fuel.
Exactly. If a couple falls into a routine and stops investing in new experiences or romance or just excitement, that emotional range just shrinks.
And cheating becomes a way to find that intensity again.
A very dangerous way. The healthy alternative, the sources say, is to keep injecting newness into the relationship. New hobbies, new places.
If you don't grow together, you grow apart. Makes sense. Now, let's move into the purely defensive reasons. There's preemptive infidelity, which is driven by the fear of his partner's infidelity.
So he cheats first.
He cheats first. It's this deep anxiety about being abandoned or betrayed. So he figures, I'll hurt them before they can hurt me, even if there's no evidence his partner is doing anything wrong.
That's pure self-sabotage. And then you've got the flip side. Straightforward revenge.
Right. Retaliating after he finds out his partner has cheated. This one is often done out in the open, almost flaunted, to balance the scales. Okay, let's look at the big crisis points, the high-pressure situations. Statistically, the biggest one is the newborn crisis.
This is one of the most dangerous times in a marriage.
Yeah. The woman's focus has to be completely on the baby, physically and emotionally. And the motive for infidelity here is, well, it's deeply immature.
Very.
The man is no longer the center of attention. There's a new competitor in the house, the child, and it's sucking up all the oxygen.
And the profile of the man who does this is really specific. He's often emotionally unprepared for fatherhood. He still, on some level, wants to be his wife's son.
He wants to be the one being cared for.
Exactly. So the loss of that role feels like a huge abandonment. And this kind of cheating is so damaging because it's piling betrayal on top of what is already an incredibly exhausting and vulnerable time for a new mother.
It's just a brutal combination.
Yeah.
Now, shifting away from a crisis point to, well, a relationship that's already over, this brings us to the motive of new love.
This happens when the affection is just completely gone. The long-term partner is there out of habit or convenience. The relationship is purely functional.
All routine.
All routine. And what he craves is that passion, that intensity, that hormonal high he remembers from the beginning.
And when another woman provides that?
He often feels justified in leaving. He's finally found that feeling of being alive that he thought was gone forever. The affair here is just a sign that the marriage was already dead.
A symptom, not the cause. And finally, we have to touch on the simplest one, the one with the least deep psychology behind it, the moment of weakness.
The purely circumstantial one.
Yeah. The circumstances just line up perfectly. A business trip, alcohol, stress. Temptation is right there, and it's easy. The decision is made in a few minutes, with no long-term plot or protest behind it.
Right. And while it's circumstantial, the sources say this kind of infidelity is almost always followed by immediate and immense regret.
Which distinguishes it from the others.
It does. It's a failure of impulse control, not necessarily a failure of core values.
So if we pull all of this together...
The psychological map is it's huge. The motivations span everything from, our biological clock telling us to move on after 3 years, to that 85% chance we'll repeat our father's mistakes.
Right.
We saw reactive cheating from a wounded ego, and we saw acute crises like a new baby completely upending a relationship.
It's almost never just one thing, is it? It's a convergence of factors. And I think the final takeaway for you is that while those intrinsic born-to-cheat types exist,
They're the minority.
they're the minority. The majority of cases seem to stem from failing to make that conscious choice to move past the biological hormonal phase, or from these deep, chronic, unmet needs, whether sexual, emotional, or tied to just feeling good about yourself. We started with that biological insight, that the infatuation phase is temporary, designed for reproduction. So here's a final thought for you to mull over. If our biological program basically encourages emotional detachment after 3 to 5 years, what deliberate, intentional steps, rooted in conscious values and not just hormones, do modern partners have to commit to actually sustain emotional commitment for a lifetime?
Please like, subscribe, and leave a comment. If you want to overcome betrayal, break toxic cycles, take control of your relationship choices, read How to Deal with a Love Triangle. The link is below the video.